Hi, my name is Makomi Chan, and I am the team captain and manager of Pride Start Gaming's Overwatch team. I've been doing esports for a few years now. I have a few very nice tournament placements under my belt. I've placed second in a few big international tournaments like the CGL for Overwatch, so I've been doing okay. This is gonna be my panel where I'm gonna be talking about like sponsorships and how a player or team can go about acquiring sponsors. One of the questions I get asked at almost every single event I go to is how I was able to procure the sponsors that I have. Up until getting signed with my esport organization / agency, I actually had several sponsors on my own, and that's very uncommon for a lot of people unless they're internet famous or like have gone viral. So I just want to talk about how I went about procuring that and maybe like help encourage you guys to go out and try to get some sponsors of your own, or how to like form a business model so you can start approaching them. First off, I want to talk about social media. So as far as esport sponsors are concerned, like the game has totally changed. I got back into esports back in college, so like almost 10 years ago, in Melee. And back then, because social media wasn't a big thing, companies and agencies and organizations, they didn't care if you had like X number of followers on Twitter or anything. They cared if you went to Evo, if you could win, or like CEO and other tournaments like that. They cared about results. Nowadays, a lot of sponsors care about your social reach on the internet, which is an interesting change, because like if you go on Twitch, like there are a lot of like pretty famous Twitch streamers who aren't signed as like pro gamers, or they don't have like impressive ratings or like international rankings in games, but they have that follower count. And a lot of companies really like people that have a high follower count. There are two main different websites that are very pertinent for esports. They are Twitter and Twitch. Twitch is pretty obvious, I'd like to think, because of like the video content, and you play your games on there. So obviously, like that's going to be big for a pro gamer. And then Twitter is really big. I actually didn't know that until like I got into my agency, because like I've had a Twitter for about like 8 years now, but I've never used it up until last year. And there's just so many different esport players who use it like explicitly. Like they don't use Instagram, or they don't really use Facebook. It's like all on Twitter, which I thought was really interesting. And then I want to talk about how you should like portray yourself on social media. How many people in here have been like pretty hardcore gamers for like most of their life? Like that, I would assume would be most people in here, right? So you know how like gaming culture is like online. So let's say you're doing ranked in Overwatch, and somebody's like they're just horrible at the game. Like they can't aim, like a training bot is better than them, you know? And like people will get toxic and say, please uninstall Scrub, stuff like that, or like misogynist remarks or racist remarks, depending on what day it is, you know? And like you can't really be like that and expect to have a company want to back you. Cause like at the end of the day, if a company decides to sponsor you, not only are you getting something out of it, but the company is getting something out of it. Like they're getting marketing out of it from you. And if you promote negative things on your social media, like bigotry, misogyny, things like that, the company's not going to want to have that associated with its brand image. So you have to like basically be a decent human being if you want to actually procure sponsors at some point. Another thing is like if you're on social media and you're in like, let's say a company's Discord, like they want to see people who are hype about their product. Like if you're a console gamer, for instance, you're not going to go up to like a keyboard company like Razer or Bloody Gaming and be like, hey, so I'm really good at this console video game. Could you send me a keyboard? And be like, but don't you use a controller? Like, there's no reason for that other than just like reaching out to a brand for free things. Like, there has to be a reason why you're reaching out to them. And that's just something to keep in mind as well. There are also different types of sponsorships. Has anybody in here ever been sponsored by a company before? Anybody? No? Okay. Well, so you know how there are like different types of companies? You have like your really big names. So like, let's use some tech companies, for instance. You have Razer, which it's in every Best Buy. Everybody knows Razer. Everybody knows what it is. I'm pretty sure that they work with the Overwatch League right now and stuff. They're a pretty big name company. Their keyboards have been outdated since like 1985, but everybody knows who they are, so they still get these big like box office merchandise deals. If you are a brand new gamer, like say you just got like your first big tournament win, or you just started streaming, you only have like a couple thousand followers or something, it wouldn't be prudent for you to reach out to the company that is partnered with a lot of really big name agencies and professional gamers. It would behoove you to go and try to reach out to the smaller, maybe like an indie tech company that has maybe a few thousand views, like they're a startup. So like then like you'd be able to provide more for them than you would be able to provide for Razer. That makes sense. So a tech sponsorship is like one example. Apparel sponsorships are like another type of sponsorships. I've worked with I think like 4 apparel companies in the past like 3 years. So I've had like 4 different companies, and they all vary in what they would want. Like generally speaking, whenever you're doing like any type of sponsorship and you get like, they send you things rather than them sending you money. Like if they send you things, they want you to like post about the things that they send you because it's advertising and whatnot. So like one of my old sponsors, Reactive Designs, they sent me a special type of like ergonomic gaming shirt. It's like Under Armour but better. And so they wanted me to wear it on stream and take selfies with it and like post it on social media and do a product review on it, like how it helped me in gaming. And like they were a startup at the time, so that was a really easy sponsorship for me to get because I actually had more clout in the industry than they did at that time. Now I've been in the industry even longer now, and so like I'm working with some bigger companies and whatnot. Like I don't have my jersey on. My agency's old jerseys were from Manatee, and they've been around for a while. And I've also worked with a few other like indie clothing brands and whatnot. And like just like as you get experience, you can add that to your professional portfolio, like when you're reaching out to these people, and it helps you that way. Another thing you need to be aware of when you are like reaching out to potential sponsors is the type of like sponsorship that you're going for. Like, are you going for the high-end version of the tech or peripheral that you want, or are you going for the less known, like maybe like medium tier? The fewer internet fans and followers that you have and the less professional experience you have, unfortunately, the less you can ask for from companies. I'm going to use some like gaming chair companies for an example. Does anybody here own one of the DX Racer chairs?
I wish.
No, yeah, I wish I owned one too. Like, they're expensive. But I found chairs from a similar company for like $200 less. And like, if you look through the sponsorship packages and like criteria on these different websites, for DX Racer, for instance, like you can actually find it very easily on their website. Like a lot of these companies will post what specifications you need to meet in order to apply and get considered for these sponsorships. And you have to have like over 100,000 followers on like one social media. I think it's like Twitch, maybe you have to have over 100,000, or it's like over 200,000 or something like that for a $400 chair. So like the more expensive thing that you're asking for, the more internet followers you have to have in order to justify the company sending it to you. Now, at the end of the day, the company still makes out on top, because in like the marketing world, like every 1,000 fans you have or 1,000 followers, I think it's like $5 of like ad revenue like is accumulated from that. So if you actually do the math, you're like doing free work for the sponsor in a lot of the cases once you get like very big as an internet person. But that's a whole other story for another day about like ethics that I don't want to get into. But like you could go for the less known gaming chair company that is half price, and then you'd only need to have like 50,000 followers instead of like 100,000 followers. So it'd be an easier goal for you to obtain. Or like tech sponsors require less, and then apparel companies require even less. Like I get messaged like multiple times a week from different apparel companies that want to like throw me shirts and stuff to like selfie with or like wear on stream. And I'm like, well, clothing doesn't really, like, I don't need any more clothes. I need like a new, like, I need a second monitor. Like, can you hook me up there? So it like all depends on how many followers you have. Does anybody have any questions so far? Because I think I've covered a lot of the social media aspect of it. Like, any questions yet? No? Okay. Well, and then I want to talk about how you should go about approaching a company. So has anybody here ever actually approached a company before, or an agency, like asking, hey, I really like your products. Like, would you be willing to sponsor my channel or like my brand and like send me a few to like do a product review on? Anybody, has anybody reached out like that? You have?
It's an online thing.
Yeah.
Fill out thing, they want your information, your followers, your concurrent count, everything like that.
Mm-hmm. And was it just like on their website, like not a personalized email? Yeah. See, I hate that a lot of companies do that, because like you can't list all of your credentials in one of those things. And then, yeah.
So I was a part of Collegiate eSports organization, and we had like a partnership deck that we sent out to prospective sponsors. And it was usually people who we knew were interested in the gaming space, like Corsair. And we ended up getting them to supply us a bunch of different keyboards for all of our events.
Nice. I'm actually going to talk about partnership contracts and stuff. So there you go, and like proposal decks. So like a lot of people will reach out on social media, and I've actually seen gamers tweet at companies, be like, hey, yo, fam, I got 10,000 followers, want to send me a keyboard? And I'm like, hey, yo, fam, they're a business. What do you think? If you're going to approach them like that. Like, generally speaking, I have two ways I like to approach businesses. Ideally, I like to actually talk to businesses in person. I'm old school like that. I go to a lot of gaming conventions and industry conventions across the country. And if there's a company whose like products I've been using for a really long time, like I'll go up to their like booth that they're gonna have, and I'll talk to them. I'll be like, hey, I really like your work and everything. I really like the products you've been making. I've been paying for them with my own money for years. And like now I work for this organization and I use it when I'm doing my tournaments and stuff. I use it in my streams. Like, what do you want to do? Like, what do you want to collaborate in the future? Like, list off some of the, like your qualifications, like why a company would want to give you something of theirs. And just like get to know the people who work for the company and vice versa. Because for a lot of gamers, you're like the last unicorn if you are able to like talk to people in person. A lot of tech companies have had a really hard time at finding pro-level gamers who are sociable enough to like do what I'm doing right now. Like, it's one thing to do it on Twitch, but it's another thing to do it in a room with like a dozen or so other people or hundreds of other people. And so being able to talk to them at a live event is something that could like really benefit you. And then another thing that has worked out really well is like digging through the internet to find email addresses. Nowadays, the bigger companies, they are less inclined to post specific like department head address, like email addresses on their websites and stuff. So sometimes you have to go to other websites like LinkedIn and whatnot, and you can find people who work in the company, and then you can reach out that way. But when you reach out to them, like I was saying, you don't want to basically tweet at them like you would one of your friends on like Instagram or on Twitter. You want to talk to them like how you would talk to like your boss at your day job. Like you want to use like at least business casual terminology in your email. You want to proofread it, make sure you don't have any spelling errors or typos or grammatical errors. You want to make sure you're extremely respectful when you're reaching out. And then while you're communicating in this way, you also want to talk yourself up to a certain extent, because chances are the one individual person you're messaging in your company has no idea who you are. Like you could be Ninja or like Zero, and not everybody in the world knows who Zero is. So like you still have to have a certain level of professionalism when you reach out to these companies, and tell them about your like previous like awards and like wins that you've had, different companies you've worked with. Like treat it like a resume basically, or like a cover letter. So that's like something that a lot of people don't do, and it would really benefit a lot of people, because I know for a fact, I did an interview with the person who's in charge of the sponsorships department for Bloody Gaming. They're one of my sponsors. I love them. Their stuff is lit, literally, because it's powered by light technology. But I talked with the person for a while, and they said one of the easiest ways to like get completely brushed aside by their company and other companies is to not be professional when you approach them, and to like when you reach out being like, hi, so I just saw your stuff on the internet and I think it's cool, and I'd like to give you the opportunity to work with me. Like a lot of people also have like a lot of pride about themselves when they reach out to these people, and you have to be able to find that balance between like, hi, I'm qualified to be a sponsored person on behalf of your company, but I'm not the bee's knees. Like you would be benefiting me a lot. Like let's work together, not you work for me. And I think being able to find that dichotomy is really important. Like a lot of companies don't want to work with somebody who is very full of himself and is just like a pain to work with. You know, like you don't want to deal with that one person in your game that won't shut up about themselves. Like why should you be that person to a company when a company has like thousands of other people approaching them about the exact same thing who may be more humble than you? Does anybody have any questions about the proposal packages? Yes.
So this might veer off a little bit off topic, but you hit the point there at the very end. Like humility is a good thing, but if there's 100,000 or thousands of other people applying, what are you selling? What are you selling that's different? I feel like that's kind of like what I want to know.
Well, it depends on the person. He asked, when there are thousands or like hundreds of other people applying for the same sponsorship as you, how do you go about informing the company of what is special about you? Like what makes you stand out among the crowd of others? And you can tell that to a company without being rude pretty easily, I think.
Sure, but that's why I was saying it's less about how you're saying it, but what are you selling? What
Yeah.
are you selling to a company? That's what I want.
Well, generally speaking, companies are going to be more inclined to send their products to people who are already informed about their products and who maybe have already purchased products in the past. Like, for instance, I'm trying to think of a good company right now. I mean, I can use Bloody Gaming, for instance. I was very fortunate. Reactive Designs, they sponsored my gaming rig, the whole thing. They custom built it for me and everything. I am extremely lucky, and I cried tears of joy when they dropped it off at my apartment. But they didn't supply the peripherals, so I figured, well, they just paid for the majority of what would cost me to have a gaming rig, so I can pay for the peripherals myself. And so I went to my other sponsor. I'm a console person primarily, so they sponsor my org, but not like me specifically, if that makes sense. But I still have the org discount because I'm a part of the org. And so I went to their shop and I just like picked out some stuff that I thought looked cool and had good reviews. And I went and I used it and did like a product review stream and whatnot. And then I met multiple people in like their marketing department because I had to have meetings with them once I got promoted in my org to a certain level, and I met them and I was like, yeah, I've been using your products for like a few months now. I actually paid for them. Like, I like them. They're really cool. And so like they're more excited to work with me because I've tried their products out myself and I actually like their products. So if you like the products that you're reaching out to, like it can help you get further along. Also, as far as like your own, like what makes you different, like what is unique about you? Like when you're going about making your online gamer like persona and like streaming identity and whatnot, that should be something that you figure out way before you get to the point of, oh, I actually have enough followers where I could maybe get a sponsor. So like that's something that you need to like ask yourself, maybe like ask your fans. Like that's something where you can find out what's really good about you and like what's unique. And then like relaying it to the company, like, yeah, my fans really like, they really take my word on products and stuff because they like such and such about me, or like they keep coming back and bringing their friends because of this certain thing that I do that not a lot of other streamers do, or not a lot of other gamers do. Did that answer your question any?
A little bit.
A little, okay. Yes.
See, I can help out. I have a degree in public relations.
Okay.
So
Very useful.
Yeah. So I guess to really answer your question about how to stand out, when you're applying not just for a position, but especially in a industry like eSports, where pretty much clout is everything, it really goes back to what they tell you in PR 101, cultivating a personal brand. Now this is useful for pretty much anybody, but the way you stand out is that you, through your social media, through your activity, you cultivate yourself to the other side of personality. I think Zero does a really good job of this. He's known as like a very friendly, like bubbly, happy Smash guy. He's impossible to get angry. And he has a very sort of reputation behind that, and all of his actions to social media, his stream promotes that identity. He stays on his message of promoting that sort of atmosphere, and sponsors are easily attracted to that kind of atmosphere because that sort of reputation of being an approachable, friendly guy who stays positive and tries to cultivate the scene and get more people in it is very, very attractive to a corporate entity. I'm going to use a Dota example because I've watched a lot of Dota, played some Dota as well. We have a player for a while who had a really bad reputation, or I wouldn't even say bad, but contentious reputation, and a guy named Sumail. Very, very talented player, TI winner, championship. And he came into the scene very, very young, and he became very controversial because he was good and he had a very big attitude. And so if you're watching his stream, he didn't actually have individual sponsors on his stream for a couple years because he needed time to mature, because when you have this 15-year-old hot-headed, very talented kid, it's very hard for a corporation to say, yeah, he's good, let's give him money, or it's more like, yeah, he's good, but do we really want our products to be represented by someone with that kind of reputation?
It's like a risk versus reward circumstance.
So basically, what it boils down to is the corporation that you're working with needs to know that you're a stable entity.
So my point is, I work for the Golden State Warriors for Golden Guardians.
Yeah.
I've got a ton of DMs. How do I tell who's who? Like, that's like, how do you stand out from that, right? Like, that's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
what are you selling to me that makes me want to give you anything, right? And I like the deck the deck idea was really cool.
Yeah.
What you're selling is very clear. But as a streamer, as a individual entity, right? Individual.
Yeah.
It's a little different, right? We have corporate sponsorships and all that stuff from
Oh, yeah.
Electronic and aware yourself with that. But how do you sell you to that entity? That's what I was trying to get to. Like, what is it?
Okay.
I do everything in my power to make sure that I can have a phone call or meet in person, honestly. He asked, how do you wait, like, as an entity, how do you, like, wade through the sea of DMs you'll get to find those people that are worth your time as a company and agency to work with? I've never been in the position where I've had my reputation or clout questioned. I'm very fortunate in that when I got started in the geek industry and scene, I already had a very professional, I guess, reputation. I'm just like that as a person, honestly. So I never had to really prove myself to a company. They've just been able to see like my work experience and like seeing consistent growth from a person. Like if they started at the bottom and then worked their way up to bigger and better brands or bigger and better like organizations and teams, that's normally a pretty good indicator, I think. Also, a lot of like written and verbal communication are two very different things. And so a lot of people are really good at one, but they're not very good at the other. So say like, I express myself better verbally to people than I do written. So if I'm trying to actually build a relationship with a company that I'd like to work with in the future, I try to get like a phone number, or I try to instigate like a Discord call or something. And I think that as a company, you can also find out a lot about a person that's applying for a sponsorship by doing both a written and a verbal interview, if that makes sense. Did you have anything else to add?
He does.
So
Yeah.
one important thing about what you're trying to necessarily sell, even as an individual, is, in my experience, it's been market reach. For example, from my own experience in the collegiate esports scene, you're selling product exposure to 18 through 20-something adolescents, young adults who are interested in competitive hardcore gaming and would be interested in particular peripherals. And you're basically just, you can do this with, you can apply the same to any streamer. So you have a streamer who's really into anime, like Zero. I remember Zero was talking about with the sponsors, how he was trying to set up selling a body pillow, a Zero body pillow.
Oh my gosh.
Now, the sponsors weren't going for it initially, but it's slowly moving along where he's saying, hey, these people will buy this product because this is the particular audience that I'm supplying to, and if a company wants to supply to that particular audience or that particular demographic, they can support a streamer or a esports entity that allows them access and allows them reach to that area.
And so like you can also prove that through like when people say they have X number of reach, they should be able to provide the social media like proof of it, you know, like the algorithms and like the Twitch, oh my gosh, I can't remember what it's called, but like Twitch analysts and stuff, so you can see like where certain like their fan base are from and whatnot. And then you can also, as far as like proving your type of fan base, I think that's a little bit more difficult, like what they're actually into, unless like you're a very niche streamer, because like a lot of people would say, like for instance, I've been doing a lot of gaming streams lately, but most of my fans are actually still from cosplay and like costume design, because that's how I got started on Twitch like a few years ago. And like they'll still watch my gaming streams because they are interested, like they're invested in what I'm doing with my life, so they want to support me, but like their actual care and what they care about is in like foam work and like making cosplay armor or like sewing superhero costumes and stuff. So being able to prove that could be difficult. he wanted to know, like we were talking about how to prove where your specific like fan base is to companies and agencies and whatnot. I guess like you could do like a poll or something, or like have your fans like tweet to the company that you're reaching out to maybe, but I don't really like involving, like I like keeping sponsorship conversations like private. I don't really make them public until like press releases are made. Like that's just how I handle things. But do we have any other questions about that? Like has anybody, like you mentioned you were reaching out to sponsors and you mentioned you reached out to Corsair earlier. Has anybody else like thought about reaching out to sponsors recently? Or just like emailing a company just to see what would happen? Nobody? Have you? Tell me about it.
I haven't done anything yet. Oh wait, well, okay, so over in the LAN room, there's a company that's setting up PCs. They provided all the PCs for the LAN room.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a business card, talked to them a bit, and we're setting up a follow-up.
Yeah, so he just did a fantastic example of what I was talking about previously in the panel. He went to the LAN room, which is very relevant to what you're doing and what you want to do. He went to the LAN room, he found the person in charge, talked to them, told them about what he's doing and what he would like to see from the company, like if the company can help out, and then he got a business card. So like that's the type of thing that works really well at events. And then like if you follow up between like Monday through Wednesday this week, they'll probably know who you are still. And that's another thing, like if you meet people at events, like making sure you follow up with them. When I got my first sponsor back in it was either 2014 or 2015, I got my first sponsor. And I met them at an event just like randomly. Like I thought he was just some random dude I was talking to. I found out he was a CEO of a company. I'm like, okay, awesome, hi. This is gonna change this conversation a bit. And we had a good conversation for like a half hour, you know, and then he gave me his business card and wanted to work with me. And I followed up like the day that I flew back from the convention and whatnot. Like I've seen some people, they'll sit on business cards for like over a week or whatnot. Like you can't do that because people, like I'm sure you guys have talked to like quite a few different people throughout the convention, like just this weekend, right? Like I know I've talked to at least like 50 to 100 people like individually, and I don't know all of those people. Like I know some of them, but I'm not going to remember names. I'm not going to remember faces when they're in such rapid succession. And that's the same thing, if not like a greater thing you have to worry about when you're talking to people who are running company booths, because they're getting bombarded all weekend. And so like if you make an impression, you really need to make sure you follow up on that, because chances are like even if they don't want to forget you, they will forget you. And when you do follow up, make sure you remind them about like what you guys were talking about at the booth. Like that's another really big thing, so you should definitely do that. Like reintroduce yourself.
Yeah.
It's really good. Any other questions while I drink Gatorade?
Could you speak a little bit about, just briefly, about the agency entity? I'm a little fuzzy on that. What's your relationship and what kind of, is that like a company? Is it common for people to actually own the agency and be part of the team, or are they totally separate?
Okay. He asked me about if I could explain the agency entity a bit as far as esports are concerned, like how that works. Basically, is like a generalization of his question. First of all, I don't own the agency. I work for it. Pride Start Gaming was owned by Waywatcher. He's the founder. He was pretty high profile in esports about like 10 years ago, and he's worked with companies like Blizzard. He's been partnered with Blizzard for a really long time, and he's worked heavily within the collegiate esports circuit. He actually helped found that over here on the East Coast back in the day. So he set up the agency, and he was a pro gamer before he set up the agency. Like, that's how he got his start in esports. He was a professional WoW player. Like, he was so good, there's like a statue of him in the game. Like, Blizzard put a statue of him in the game. It's pretty awesome. But so he got to start as a pro gamer, and he's an amazing gamer. Like, I've seen very few people who are actually as good at video games as he is. Like, any game he could pick up and basically go to a tournament and place very well at, if not win. Any genre for the most part as well. He's a prodigy at gaming, and he'll play on some teams. Like, if we need players, like there's the big Smash tournament down in Florida right now that like all of the Melee gods are at, and like Zero's at. One of the guys from my agency actually played Zero in first round. That was unfortunate. But like, he's down there and he's competing, you know, like he picked up he picked up Ultimate like a month ago, and he's playing. Generally speaking, it takes a lot of effort to run an agency. It's like, when you own an agency and do the business side of it, like, you're doing the business side of it. And depending on how much money your agency brings in, that determines how many other people you can hire to do specific jobs. So say for instance, we weren't able to finalize an investor for this quarter. Our ability to pay people would go down, so the people who work for the agency already would have to consolidate jobs and whatnot. So instead of just being the CEO and talking to sponsors and booking important things for us, maybe he'd have to do social media for the quarter until we can hire a social media manager back on. Also, as far as how pay goes with agencies, there are a few main ways that agencies and players make money. The most well-known is basically tournament earnings. That's a way that the agencies make money. They normally take a stipend from tournament pots. It's 10 to 15% normally. For content creators, they'll take a percentage of their Twitch subs and ad revenue from Twitch or something. And then sometimes if the agency is big enough and they partner with other really big companies, then they get money from the companies to advertise the companies. It's like a monthly stipend type thing. It's very common with very high ranked teams. Our Arena of Valor team placed 5th at Worlds a month or two ago. We were on ESPN and everything. And we were approached by some companies specifically for our Arena of Valor team to partner with them exclusively and give the 5 players a monthly stipend of X number of dollars. So they'd be their exclusive sponsors and stuff. So that's another way that agencies and companies make money. Those sponsorships are actually the last unicorns. They are so hard to get and whatnot, and having that opportunity is amazing. Very few agencies have that set up, but the agencies that do have setups like that are able to take less of a stipend out of their players or tournament earnings and stuff. So if you can ever get a job, Tempo Storm has a setup like that, and they're god tier agency. So if you ever get a job with Tempo Storm, they're pretty awesome like that. But generally speaking, it depends on the skill level of the owner of the company. And the guy that owns and founded Pride Stark is a gaming prodigy, so he can pick up whatever game he wants and be professional level at it. I'm only good at FPS games. I'm washed at fighting games, so I don't, even though I go to Smash tournaments and fighting game tournaments with my agency, I don't partake, I watch. Which is normal for a lot of the people who go, normal for the agency people who run everything. Did I answer your question? Yeah. Any other questions? I honestly couldn't figure out how to go about doing a PowerPoint for this panel, because everything is so specific to certain circumstances. The generic advice, I feel I already gave, so I normally just like to open this up for Q&A for the more specific questions and whatnot.
What kind of agency would you
call it?
What kind of agency do you call it? Like a player agency, player rep agency, a team agency, a marketing agency? What kind of agency is it?
Content focused. So we have professional gamers on our roster, like, what type of agency my agency is. It's a combination of an esports organization and I guess like a content agency, like content creation. So like we do have like the number 5 Arena Valor team in the world, so they're obviously pro gamers. They just got flown down to Brazil to play. So we have teams like that, and then we have my team that does international tournaments, and then we also have people on staff who are like partnered on Twitch, and they like stream under the organization banners and colors and stuff. So we do a little bit of both. I think esports is evolving, and it's turning away from the players being professional, and they're focusing more on the content that the players produce outside of the tournament. And I am excited to see that happen to an extent, because that'll help the players like be able to form more careers once they decide to retire. I think that'd be something good. But yeah, how about I do my little bloody giveaway for this awesome mouse pad that they sent me for you guys. I love it. I paid money for my own one, and it's the nicest mouse pad I've ever had. Like, I had to, when I asked Bloody to send me some stuff for my panels, I was like, I don't know what I can ask for. I've never really asked a company to give me things to give away to people. Like, what do you do normally? And they normally have give away their generic branded ones, and I was like, oh well, I don't have one of those. I have this specific one. Do you guys do those? And they're like, well, normally we don't, but we've been working well with you lately, so we'll send you the upgraded ones. And I'm like, yeah, giving people the good stuff that I've actually tested and know work. So yeah, I'm really excited. This is gonna be whoever gets this is gonna love it. I love it a lot. But so what we're gonna do is I'm going to ask you guys a question about something that I told you about in my panel, and the first person to stand up out of their seat and then give me the correct answer gets this. All right, are you guys ready? So, what are the 2 most important internet sites for esports? Oh my gosh, it was so close. I'm gonna go with you actually. You.
So it was Twitch and Twitter.
Yes.
All right. Sick. So did you get it?
Yeah. And I need to get a picture with you afterwards.
My mouse pads tend to get filled with wonton soup, so this is.
You know what? This one's actually liquid resistant.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh my god, this is a game changer.
Yeah. No, it is a game changer.
Yes.
Yes. No water damage. I'm telling you, my child actually I let my son sit in my lap while I game sometimes. And he was trying to show mom how to aim, and he knocked over my drink, and it landed on that, and I screeched, obviously. And then it was fine. The lights still worked and everything, and I was like, oh, this is awesome, I don't have to get a new one. So yeah, it's really great. But that's my panel. Thanks for coming. If you have any other questions, you can hit me up on social media.